Is Russia desperately trying to divert Ukrainian forces away from Verbove and Klachivka? But is Ukraine not letting up their counteroffensive even as the weather starts to turn? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's October 10th. 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. First, taking a look at the control map. I know it. I was off yesterday. Taking care of a personal thing. Those of you that are fans of the channel may have a guess. But taking a look, the biggest noteworthy change that's happened in the last 20 or 48 hours or so has been Ukrainian forces advancing to the northwest of Verbove. You can see Verbove here. And while this area to its north is still a far cry from the hilltops outside the city, right? This area here, that's really, Ukraine has assessed that it's very important for them to take this. These positions will enable them to get overwatch on the entirety of Verbove. This, if they can get artillery or armored forces here, they can look down on the city and support as light infantry enter, right? As it stands now, if Ukraine were to try to push into the city, Russian artillery and armored forces would be in these heights would make advances very, very challenging. So I think this has been the priority for some time. And the fact that, again, Ukraine has proven able to kick some Russian forces out of at least a few of these nearby windbreaks indicates that they're at least looking to try to ratchet up the pressure on Russian forces holding these hilltops. Now, moving over to the combat map, you can see as of 7 hours ago, Ukrainian forces reporting some success outside Andrivka and Klachivka. We're going to take a look at some of the rumors of what exactly this looks like at X or Twitter. And more noteworthy, or also noteworthy rather, is that Russian forces launching 39 combat engagements, but we've noticed, at least I have noticed, that among pro-Russian channels like Rybar, there's a big emphasis on this Avdiivka. They're trying to spin Avdiivka as a major battle. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure if you ask the forces there, it is. But these have been very static front lines for a long time. That's the takeaway I think people need to have of Avdiivka. That it is not in imminent danger of encirclement, and we can take a look at some of the more self-consistent maps, such as Deep State and UA, right? You can see that Avdiivka, lots and lots of roadways fully under Ukrainian control. There's not really any grave danger of encirclement, not the rate at which advances have been happening, but we can contrast that with some of the discussions, we'll say, or some of the pro-Russian propaganda coming to us from X and Twitter, particularly via Rybar, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can find this here. Let's pull this up. It's okay. Let's take a look at this here. So first off, sorry, I'm trying not to show things that are going to get me demonetized. But if you're interested in seeing some of the combat footage from this conflict, as well as from the Israeli conflict, it's going to be on combatvetnews.com. YouTube has really cracked down on the reporting of combat events, particularly footage from combat operations. But as you guys know, that is the best form of direct on-the-ground knowledge we have of events that take place. And if you want to cut through the spin machine, you've kind of got to do that analytic work. And so if you're interested in seeing those videos, that deep dive analysis of combat footage, you want to become a member of combatvetnews.com. Any one of these tiers gets you access to the members only section. It's also the best way to support my channel, support what I do. Obviously, we shout the lieutenant and colonel tiers and lieutenant yearlies out at the end of every video because they're alpha chads. What can I say? They deserve all the love in the world. But I can't even show you the thumbnails of the members only content because I'll get demonetized. That's how YouTube kind of operates now. So if you're interested, go to combatvetnews.com/become a member. Link is in the description or up top. Okay, let's see if we can find this stuff from Rybar. Avdiivka. I really want to try to find this because Rybar. There we go. Here's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, this is a Rybar affiliated account on Russian social media, but you can see here they really are emphasizing this quote battle for Avdiivka, and you can see very clearly Russian propaganda wants to believe that Russian forces are imminently going to be taking this town, in the very near future. But when we back it up over time, just observe the lightning offensive of Russian forces. You can see that there's not really any evidence that in the past 8 weeks that there's been any changes. And you can see, right, we do see some changes over a month ago, but they're Ukraine liberating more territory. So this is a classic example of trying to divert attention away from issues where it appears that Russia is going to start some level of where they think there might be some failure, and emphasizing the places where they believe that there is the greatest chance of success. Now, bear in mind, of course, Russia probably has been on the defensive for a long time. They really politically want to see a win, and this encirclement looks like the best place to do it. But bear in mind, as we've talked about, the problem that the defenders, in the case of the counteroffensive, Russia, can cause for the person on offense with enough prep time are significant. And Ukrainian forces in Avdiivka have been on the defensive for 6 months, a year. These are very established defensive lines. These are very, very secure areas. These are very well-constructed positions. And so just like the counteroffensive struggled to break through Russian defenses, I think Russia, if they really want to throw troops at Avdiivka, are going to experience basically the exact same thing, especially when you can go on Twitter and see their plan. It's not exactly hard to guess what they're going to do here, but it just means that Ukrainian forces probably, I suspect, in the 6 months they've been sitting here, they've probably been constructing fallback positions every 100 meters, artillery fires planned out to the nth degree, fighting positions for armored vehicles, an elaborate QRF system. I am so certain that they have done so because Russia has been training these forces effectively by throwing ineffective attack after ineffective attack. Think of it like farming XP in a video game, right? If your goal was to create the most experienced, most effective troops with the least personal risk to them, you would spend a year launching highly ineffective attacks, testing their ability to respond. So all that to say, guys, take this Russian offensive in Avdiivka as what it is. Probably not in any, I would say there's probably not much danger. In contrast, we could see that outside of Klachivka and Andrivka, there's at least the rumor mill on pro-Ukraine Twitter has been that Ukraine is continuing to push in all directions, trying to probably break this into a true salient. As we talked about, once Ukraine can control this windbreak here, then there's not a lot of defensive positions for Russia to occupy. It becomes a lot of open terrain, and Russia's going to have a harder time holding it. They're probably going to be pushed back, likely to this roadway here. They may end up trying to use maybe this elevated positions here, maybe some of these wood lines, but you see how thin they are, right? You can't get two tanks stacked together in some of these narrower windbreaks. It's going to be hard. And so I think that's why Ukraine is pushing these forces here as hard as they are. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I had for you. Right. The only other news to speak of is that there is some rumors in the rumor mill, so to speak, that the weather is beginning to change in and around the front lines, that the rain and wet season is closer to being upon us, and that may slow combat operations. But again, I bear in mind that you often have instances where when both sides are impacted by something equally, you haven't actually altered the playing field, if that makes any sense. Anyway, guys, that is all I had for you. Thank you so much to our Colonel tier members. I appreciate you so much. We're actually dropping a video today on Combat Vet News. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members, the numerous that you are. And of course, a huge thank you to the Lieutenant tier members. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.